Today, we step into the squared circle of horror and jump off the top turnbuckle into hell. Welcome to...
Monsters, horror, hijack.
Go to Tromo Hill, that's where the party is. Let's go to Tromo Hill, that's everything I need. Let's go to Tromo Hill, that's where the party is. Let's go to Tromo Hill.
Today, on Mario's Horror Hijinks, we're joined by Mr. Monster, British professional wrestler who has brought the world of horror into the squared circle with him. Mr. Monster, thank you for joining us.
No problem, man, no problem.
How you doing?
Not too bad.
Cool. So your character, your style, your ambience that you bring with you is it's a horror style.
Yeah, definitely.
What influenced you? What made you decide that when you broke into the world of wrestling, you wanted to bring a horror edge?
Two things. Well, three things if you want to do it. One thing that the wrestling didn't have when I came up with the idea of Mr. Monster was horror. It never had a horror influence. I mean, you've got your Undertakers and your Kanes and stuff like that, but there was not a big, massive horror influence. So, being a big fan, which comes into number two, of horror movies that I've been a fan of since I was 7 years old, and one of my favourite loves is the music horror punk. So I combined the three together, and came up with Mr. Monster, and that's what I do.
Tell us a bit about Mr. Monster. What's the character?
Well, basically, it comes from the world of horror punk, a music genre that is based around horror movies. You know, I mean, you've got your big bands, your blood-sucking zombies from outer space, your Crimson Ghosts. You know, they're all there, and that's a big influence on what I do. And there's a man called Michael Graves from the band The Misfits, and he's just amazing to me. So when I came up with the idea of Mr. Monster, I wanted to really base it on the horror punk style, because no one had done it. Nobody had done it up to this point. The only person off the top of my head that I could think of has ever come close is Vampiro, who again had the Misfits with him, do you know what I mean, in WCW and stuff. So apart from me and him, there's not many of us around, so it was totally original. When I came up with the name Mr. Monster, there was a band that I really admired called Mr. Monster, and they got their name from a comic book from years ago called Mr. Monster. And considering they weren't a band at the time, and I got in touch and I asked if I could use the name, and we all sorted it, and yeah, I took it from there and just
So it's almost like a legacy, going from a comic book to a band, now a professional wrestler, carrying the name on.
Carrying the name on, all based on horror. And again, it encompasses comic books, which is a big love of mine, and it encompasses horror, which is a big love of mine, and it encompasses the horror music I listen to, which is a big love of mine. So everything came in, and then to bung it all together and turn it into a wrestling character. And when I thought of how to create the monster, and it's like, well, the monster can't be a normal wrestler. He has to be something different. And I've always looked up to people. I looked up to guys like Mick Foley, Sabu, Joe and Terry Funk, all the hardcore wrestlers. I've always been that more way inclined. So when I came up with the idea, I thought, right, I'll go with a horror gimmick. And what's better than horror is to show horror in the ring and make people go, oh! It's the gasp of when they see someone get killed. And when I get thrown on drawing pins or for a table on fire, you get that same reaction. So it's taking it from one aspect to another.
Well, you've dubbed this hardcore horror mixed style as horrorcore.
Yep.
You are the UK's horrorcore wrestler.
Yep, and that's it. It was an idea that I came up with, and as far as I'm aware, I'm the only person that does it. And yeah, it's a way of shock wrestling. I like doing things that people would see, and you get a lot of kids watching wrestling. So when you're trying to impress people, you go for the adults as well. You know what I mean? And what better way to do things that will shock an adult, where a kid will see it and it's just what it is, but an adult will see it and be like, oh, wow, I can't believe you just done that. Do you know what I mean? And then that's how I got to it. You try and shock people into stuff I do is crazy. It's outside the box. It's different to everyone else that everything people are doing. So everyone's entitled to their own way of wrestling. It's just that I encompassed my life into it. I always feel that being a wrestler, you should be a an over-exaggeration of your own self, a character you've always dreamed of playing. So you get some wrestlers that probably want to be a superhero and think to themselves, right, how could I be about that? So they're all high-flying and stuff. Where me, I took the horror, which is what this is about, and then mixed it with wrestling and came up with my own style and my own image and my own look, and everything that I do is original to the UK.
So Mr. Monster is more than just face paint to you. You peeled away the green and white mask, and underneath, this is who you are.
Yeah, it's basically, it's an over exaggeration of myself. It's what I would be given the chance, and I've been given the chance, so therefore I portray the monster, and he is. And to be horror inclined, the way I look at it is if I lose, I lose. But what happens to most horror characters in the movie? They get killed off.
That's a good point. That's a good point. But they always return in the sequel.
Exactly. The next movie, they're back, and that's all it is. The way I look at it is they're not matches, they're movies. And I'm a horror character in the ring, fighting. And if I win, I win. If I don't, I don't. But then I come back to fight another day. You can't kill the monster. That's what I tried to create, and that's what I've ran with for the past 6 years nearly now, and that's what seems to be working. So
you have, like you say, you've been doing this for the past 6-7 years, but you've actually been wrestling since you were 14 years old?
Yeah, well, originally I started wrestling at the age of 11. And I did nearly 5 years wrestling. I mean, learning then, and Norman Bache, God rest his soul. And
that was your trainer? That
was my trainer back then. And where I trained there evolved into where I'm training now. And even though there was like a 16-year gap in between the two times, I came back and I was older, I was more prepared, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, I knew exactly what I wanted the characters to look like, I knew everything I wanted to do. It was just a case of putting it all together, going out there and showing people what I'm about, and it's different, it's captivating. I'm freaking the makeup, you know what I mean? Look at him go, do you know what I mean? He's stupid, you know, it works on every level. Where people look at it and just be like, he's nuts. Or people look at it and be like, wow, that's impressive. It doesn't make a difference. You've captured their attention, and that's all you try and do. Shock wrestling. That's what it's about.
Some of the matches you've been involved with have been quite shocking.
Yeah.
As you said, you're the monster. You get killed at the end of each show, but always return. and some of the ways that the monster demises is it can be a bit brutal. What's some
Sometimes,
of the most brutal scenarios that you've been involved in?
Quite recently, we're talking, I think it was August, I took a plant pot to the head, and that busted me open, a treat sort of thing. And even though I was lying there thinking, well, I'm bleeding, there was a part of me that thought to myself, this is what it's about. It's, you know what I mean? There's people like, oh my god, I shocked them. Yeah, it might not be family friendly, but for that moment in time I shocked them, and no one didn't come back from it. People were back the next month to see what was going to happen, because, do you know what I mean?
To see if you rose from the grave.
Yeah, and that's what it's about. You know what I mean? It's about trying to take it to as far as I can take it. I'm allowed to take it, and and the monster gets killed. He just comes back, and he keeps coming back, and he keeps coming back, and it's just, you know what I mean? That's what it's about. I'm a horror character, so therefore, you can't kill me. I will return, even if it's so many years later and it's a remake.
We all know in the world of wrestling there's a lot of copycats, a lot of fakers. What would you do, or what would you say if someone completely ripped off your style?
Wow. I don't know. Lose it, probably. Or I would get my promoter to book him in a match against me, and we'll wrestle for the monster gimmick. And
who would win?
Me.
Goes without saying.
Yeah, doesn't make a difference. Going against myself in some sort of Mortal Kombat scenario, yeah, that'd be quite fun.
Mirror match.
Yeah, that would be quite amusing, that would, especially if he proper ripped me off and he did everything I did. I was like, okay, plant pot.
Would there be a fatality at the end?
Yeah, it'd be mine.
So you said that you've been into horror since you were 7 years old, which is quite an early age.
Yeah.
What got you into horror in the first place?
The classics, Frankenstein, Dracula.
The Universal ones.
Yeah, because I vividly remember it was a New Year's Eve, and we were over my auntie's house. I've got a very big family, and we were all there. And my nan always used to look after the kids. And being that I'm one of the oldest of the grandkids, she just let me stay up. And on one particular New Year's Eve, they showed Bela Lugosi's Dracula. So she was like, "You can sit and watch this." I sat there watching it, gobsmacked. You know what I mean? And yeah, that was it. And the next thing, I'm going around my nan's, "Oh, can we watch another one? Can we watch another one? Can we watch another one?" And that escalated into, I had a little black and white television. This is how long ago it was. And you had to tune in with a dial and do the aerial and stuff like that. And what I used to do was, when I was a kid, I used to pull the covers up over the television and me in the bedroom, so that way when Mum walked past, she couldn't see the light in the doorway. And I remember watching Jaws. I watched Evil Dead. And because back then there was no certification, do you know what I mean? You could watch stuff like that was on television, and I remember watching American Werewolf in London, and the scene where the Nazi werewolves come through the window, and I was frozen, petrified under this quilt, absolutely gripped in fear, and loved it. Absolutely loved it, and it just escalated from there to the point where, when I was a little bit older, I was allowed to watch zombie movies and stuff like that, and I'm pretty privileged that Mum and that were pretty cool about it, or the fact that they weren't really paying much attention to what I was doing. It could go one or two ways. Either way, I got to watch horror movies anyway, and yeah, I used to get to car boot sales with my uncle, and I used to point at the ones I want, and he'd just buy them for £1, £2. I used to take them home and sit and watch them and stuff, and then I got involved in a club that used to trade the, you know what I mean, the Texas Chainsaw Massacres and the Cannibal Holocausts and all your stuff like that, because it was the only way of me being able to get them. And I was, 14 years at that time, and I used to meet a guy down McDonald's, and we used to trade the tapes for £5 and stuff, and I'd take them home and bung them in, and you know what I mean, the first time you get to watch like Cannibal Holocaust and Ferox, and it's fantastic, you know what I mean, and it just escalated and escalated and escalated and escalated and escalated to
Mr. Monster.
to what you see before you. Yeah.
So it really has been an incredibly important part of your life.
Yeah, very, very, very important. No matter what happens, I've always got my horror movies.
What does horror mean to you personally?
That's a damn good question. Personally, it's the grip of fear. It's when certain people watch horror movies and they're genuinely scared by horror movies. They're vulnerable. They're frozen in a moment, and I dig that. You know, I mean, you don't get that in a comedy. You laugh at it. You watch an action movie, you watch stuff blow up, and you're enjoying it and whatever. If you have to watch a chick flick, you're bored. End of the day, you put a horror movie on, and it's all about the scare. It's all about watching it and seeing what happens. And after watching some horror movies for the best part of 31 years nearly now, you start to root for the horror movie guy. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, you watch the Jason movie, you don't care about the kids.
You want to see him chop some people up.
And you want to see him chop some people up. Exactly, that's exactly what you want. No frills, no spills. You come in, bang. You as a horror movie fan, you're not rooting for the innocent teenagers and the one that doesn't smoke weed and stuff like that. You're rooting for the killer. Every way, shape or form. And then once you get past that aspect and you start rooting for the killer, that's when horror movies become fun. And that's when you start to enjoy them, and that's when you understand them. And then you can start to see different directors' twists and spins on certain things and how they go about their certain way. As a kid, you'll watch it and you're just like scared. Once you get over being scared, you take it for what it is, a damn good movie, and people get frightened by it, people get scared, people have nightmares about it and stuff like that. Well, we watch it, and we're just like, yeah, chop her head off, pick up that sleeping bag and bash her against the tree. That's how it works.
Do you miss the fear?
To a certain degree, yeah, because you do. After so many movies, you lose the fear, and like I said, you start rooting for the bad guy, and yeah, I suppose in a way you do miss it to a certain degree. You miss that chill. The only things nowadays that give me that sort of the Japanese movies. You know what I mean? You'll watch a subtitled movie that's genuinely creepy, and you'll watch it and you'll be like, yeah, this is pretty eerie. This is why I watch horror movies. When you watch a classic Halloween or a classic so-and-so, you're sitting there on the edge of your seat going, yeah, killer, you know what I mean? You're rooting for the thingy, so it works on both levels, but Yeah, I do miss the fear to a certain degree, but I think if the fear was there, you wouldn't enjoy it so much. You'd enjoy being scared, but you wouldn't enjoy it how we enjoy it, where you can watch it. Do you know what I mean? You're rooting for the bad guy. Do you know what I mean? It's always the same. Do you know what I mean?
You dissect it the same way that Jason dissects a nubile young teenage girl.
Exactly.
There we go.
That's the one.
What was the last horror film that gave you the heebie-jeebies?
I don't know. The last horror movie I watched that made me generally go, "Wow, that was pretty awesome," and jump and like come out of my seat was the remake of The New Evil Dead. Some of the bits in that made me go, "Wow, that's new. That's epic. That's pretty clever." Do you know what I mean? But I'm a traditionalist. I like the older movies. I'm not keen. I don't like the remakes, and I don't like some of the way that I generally don't like the fact that they use special effects on movies. I like watching something where you get a good old Tom Savini special effects.
Yeah,
you know
so it's the CGI that you don't like.
And that's what I mean. You get a lot of new movies, all shot in HD and stuff. I'm a big fan of watching movies as they should be, of the era they were made. We all used to watch them on videotape. So to me, when I watch a Blu-ray cut of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is one of the ones I always use to highlight this conversation, you watch a new one, and yeah, you can see all the background and you can see everything clearly, but when I first watched it, it was a dark, dingy, crappy copy with cigarette burns in it and flickers, and you had to alter the tracking and stuff like that. And it made it seem like it, do you know what I mean, like the rumours were true. Do you know what I mean? You used to hear about the rumours, oh, you go see Texas Chainsaw Massacre, this happens and that happens. And when you get a copy like that, you're like, wow, this is, you know what I mean, being at that age sort of thing. You know what I mean, first time I watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think I was 13. And I watched it, and I brought people home from school and dinner times and stuff. That was my thing. I used to get horror movies, and then tell everyone about it at school. And on Friday, I'd say, "Oh yeah, I'll come back to my house," and then I'd have all the really gory bits dotted down on numbers, so you could fast forward it to that certain time and play certain scenes to them and stuff. There was nothing better than getting people around the house and making them watch the eyeball scene from Zombie Flesh Eaters.
Yes.
That got the best reaction ever. People were, because you know, I mean, this was a long time ago, and people were genuinely shocked. It's, you know, the whole video nasty thing come apparent. It was like, that's what it did to people. People that didn't appreciate it, like, oh, I watched it and I was like, that's awesome. Do you know what I mean? How cool is that? How did they do that? How did they make that look so good? What? And like, you try and look into it and you think, how did they make that? How did they do that? You know, how did Jason get the machete in his head and fall down his head when he slides down it and stuff? And you start to dissect the movie, like you said. And but you look at the bad parts as the good parts, and that's what makes the movie good.
So you weren't the kid at school that distracted people. You were the kid at school that warped people.
Yeah.
But in a good way, because horror's good.
Yeah. That's what I did.
You gave them an extra education.
Yeah. I genuinely believe nowadays that people would still say to like their partner, or whatever, oh, when I was at school, there was this kid that he took us all back to his house, and he showed us this scene where this woman got a bit of a door stuck in her eye, and it all popped out, and the story got so exaggerated because you can only remember in a mind's eye back then that it still holds. The fables still hold true to a certain degree. You know what I mean, some of the fables you used to hear about some of the movies, or you know, mate. Someone used to say to me, "Oh, you've got to buy." But keep trying to sell the movie, obviously. He'd be like, "Oh, you've got to buy it. You want to watch the new Cannibal Holocaust? You want to watch the new?" And he'd try and sell you the movies by telling what copies in that he's got of this, that, and the other and stuff. And yeah, I'll buy that. Yeah. You're 13, 14 years old. You know, telling you that they use tramps off the street to put a drill in their head. That to you was just like, wow, I've got to see this. And when you watched it, you were like, oh my god, that's awesome. Go to school and tell people that you just watched the guy getting drilled in the head. It's real. It was a tramp. They use it, and until you get older, that you learn things like that, and then you find out Faces of Death isn't all real, and it's like being told Santa Claus isn't real,
and it just ruined your childhood.
It did. You know, first time I see Faces of Death, my jaw hit the floor. I couldn't believe what I had in my hands. It was like the ultimate weapon. Anybody, you've got to come and see this. It's a guy getting electrocuted. Oh my god, it's all real. It's all real footage. And then to find out 20 years or so later, when you're all growing up and stuff, that a lot of it isn't.
Yeah. There weren't real monkey brains.
You were just like, it was. You know what I mean? Yeah, the whole monkey scene. Like, yeah, monkey brains. Oh my god. Do you know what I mean? That's what they do in India. Oh, you know what I mean? And they're crazy. But yeah, and you learn that. And then once you learn it, all you can do is go. you had me fooled for all them years. I genuinely believed, I argued with people, I was like, no, some of the clips are definitely real, some of the clips, that might not be, I'll give you that, but this, you know what I mean, look, you can see the tape coming up on his eyes as he's getting electrocuted. It's definitely fucking, and I've had so many arguments about it, then you learn that it's not at the same time, and then comes the whole thing about being scared. It wasn't the fact of being scared, it was back as being fascinated. And you start to watch the effects, and I love real gore effects, real, you know what I mean, when Tom Savini is the all-time greatest, and he'd do stuff, and you'd watch it and be like, wow, you could see it was a rubber guy, you could see it was a rubber head, but it was still like, wow, do you know what I mean, wow, that is...
This is really interesting because you're saying about the wow factor of something that you know isn't real, no disrespect, but wrestling is entertainment.
Exactly.
And it's, so you've using...
You've hit the nail on the head. I know horror movies isn't real, and I know that Tom Savini's gone to himself, right, we need this effect. How am I going to do a cleaver in Jason's head and have him fall on the floor and slide down the blade? How am I going to achieve this? And he has to work it out. And I do exactly the same thing. I think to myself, right, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I'll come up with an idea that genuinely is happening to me. And I think, right, I'll go through this, or I'll do this, I'll do this. That'll get a wow factor. And then I have to work out how I'm going to do it in a way that it looks more real than it is, and it's safest possible way for me to do it. Yeah, sometimes I don't come out of it great, but it's the risk you have to take. But a lot of things I do are genuinely planned out, and it's not my fault, because wrestling's a 50-50 game. So sometimes if someone's not on the ball or doesn't follow instructions, you're the one that pays the consequences for it.
As in your partner, whoever you're fighting.
Whoever you're going against, once they understand what you're about and what you want to do, if they can't follow instruction right, or genuinely get caught up in the moment or whatever, and so it's you that pays the price for it, because even though it's you that's come up with the own thing to do to yourself, it's one of the things of wrestling. It's like it's I was saying about Tom Savini. It's just he wants an effect, I want an effect. So I think, how am I going to do this effect? What's the best way to do it? If I do it facing this way or facing that way, if I do it in this corner or that corner, and then I'll try and work out where I can put it and place it. And then I do think a lot into it, and I work it all out. And sometimes it goes according to plan, and I'll nail it straight on the button, and I think, perfect, that worked exactly how I wanted it. Sometimes it goes wrong, and I still think, perfect. This has gone worse than I could have expected, but at the same time, I've got the same effect of what I'm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Being bleeding and putting blood everywhere and stuff. Yeah, people were shocked, and there was kids in that around, and some kids probably shouldn't have seen that. But coming back the next time, they know that the monster's all right. I come out and do the signings, I meet all the kids, I make sure that they can see that I'm perfectly fine, do you know what I mean? I'm a monster, you can't kill the monster, do you know what I mean? And that's the way you've got to do it. Because if you disappeared and didn't come back out again, you know what I mean, it's happened before, there's been panic, you know what I mean, and you lose fans and stuff over that. So a lot of times when I think of stuff I have to do, I think to myself, right, how will this be perceived by people? And it's a very fine balance to get it right. To think to myself, how could I use this plant pot, for instance, making it look devastating, but at the same time coming out of the not so bad. And and you just sit and plan it and sit and put it together, and that's the way it works, in the same way as a horror effect. And then when it gets shown on the screen, or I show it in the ring, it wants to get the same desired effects. People won't be like, how did he do that? It's the same thing. I want the wow. I want the gasp. Do you know what I mean? It's a lot of time. I don't want the cheer. It's the gasp. I want that split second in time where everyone in time goes and then claps. The claps mean a lot, but that gasp in between them is what I'm after, and that's what I'm about. It's getting that shock value, getting that little bit of that split second where they're, wow. I come to a wrestling show. I didn't expect to see that. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I'm about.
Well, wrestling is, as a piece of entertainment, crosses many genres. I mean, you're going to get your action, and there's a lot of comedy as well in wrestling. You always get your touch of romance every now and then. Horror isn't a huge deal of wrestling, but then if you think about, say, the top 10 greatest names of all time, you mentioned The Undertaker earlier, He's probably in the top 5, to be fair.
To be fair, yeah.
Since day one, he's had a horror gimmick. Why do you think, though, that with a guy who has been extremely successful using horror, there's so few people that actually do?
That's the weird thing. It's a genre people don't want to touch, because if you do go down that line, if you can't follow through, it doesn't go right. It doesn't look like it falls flat. So where The Undertaker didn't need to rely on the hardcore element, he was just Taker. You know what I mean? But the same thing happened to me. I was designed, when I came up with Mr. Monster, he was clearly a bad guy. Do you know what I mean? And I remember, you know what I mean, doing my first match, who you were at the ringside by.
Yep.
Yeah, you didn't say that earlier on, did you? And we played the bad guy, and we come out and we genuinely scared a lot of people. And that
was a good night.
Yeah,
that was a very good night.
I was spitting green food dye everywhere, and I tried to be terrifying, but they liked me, and I couldn't work out why. And the promoter, who I had the actual match with, said, "I think we're onto something here." Do you know what I mean? And said to me, "I'm going to try you as a good guy and see what happens." And I genuinely, I fought it, you fought it, and my ex-tag partner fought it for a good year before we actually accepted the fact that people genuinely liked what I did. And that was the thing. It was like I spent so long going, no, we should be a bad guy because I want to do this, and I want to do that, I want to do this. I was forgetting that what I was doing, I didn't force it on anybody. It was never, you know what I mean? I'm how can someone look like this in a wrestling show when kids come to see it? I should be the guy they're scared of, but I'm not. I'm the guy they cheer the most, and that's the whole thing. It's like I shock them. I get them in that captivated moment. That when I get a plant over my head and I'm bleeding, that's me at 7 years old under the covers watching Jaws going. Do you know what I mean? It's exactly the same effect, regardless of what you're going for, and that's what the monster's about. Getting that desired effect, passing on what I did, but through a completely different medium.
Do you know what that means? We're going to need a bigger ring.
Yeah.
So horror has taken over your personal life as well, away from the ring, and you even had a horror-themed wedding.
Yes, I did. Yes.
Tell us all about that.
Yeah, me and my wife got married on Halloween, and we're both fans of horror music and stuff like that. We both like horror movies and stuff, so we decided that what better way to get married is on Halloween, and we had a horror-themed wedding, and the party at night was. You come dressed up, no question about it, you come dressed up. Even my dad made an effort. Not much of an effort, but he made an effort. And and we got the best part of 100 people in a room, and we had a horror band playing. All the food was horror themed. We had a whole room decked out completely in, you know what I mean, in decorations and everything. Everything about the day and the night was horror based. So when we redo our wedding vows, in say 5 years' time, we haven't got the money to pay for the wedding license and everything like that. It's free reign, and that's when we turn what we originally had in our mind's eye to do into reality, which is a horror wedding spectacular. But yeah, we got married on Halloween, and we'll be married a year come 31st of August.
So that's again.
So come 31st of October, we're married a year, and it's awesome, and that's generally how we live our life. We're both fans of horror music and just everything horror. So we are the oddballs in the street. We're the guy that's, I can't believe their kid's got a big giant house outside that's painted like, you know what I mean, like a haunted house. It's just, that's how we live our life. Horror's been that big of effect throughout my life that it's everywhere for me. It's literally everywhere. I want to watch it on the television, it's just all around me. And when I bring my kids up, I desensitise them to stuff. It's like, say Freddy Krueger. you show an 8-9-year-old Freddy Krueger, or they're scared. But if they're, from the minute they got sight of seeing a picture of Freddy Krueger up to 9 years old, they're not scared of it anymore. It doesn't mean anything. They literally, it's desensitized them to him, even though they don't know why. They've never seen the movie, they've never watched anything like that, but just seeing it around them, and Frankenstein's monsters and Dracula's and stuff like what we've got in our house and stuff, just being around that takes the edge off of things, where you don't take things too seriously. That's what a lot of the time people don't get about the horror movie, especially the horror movies of the 80s, that it has got a tongue-in-cheek and a black humour to it. And us as fans can watch it, and where we're rooting for the bad guy, we're finding it funny. You know, we're seeing what we're seeing. It's like he just hit a girl around a tree in a sleeping bag. That is awesome, and it's funny. But at the same time, it's brutal, and at the same time, it's epic, and at the same time, it's awesome, and it's just one of them things. It's horror. It's affected. Like I say, it's affected my life from 7 years old right through to now. Everything that I do has got that little tweak of horror to it. From the clothes I wear to my car with stickers on it, from our kitchen, everything we do has got that element of horror to it, because it's what it's about.
So what would a world without horror be like for you?
Horrible.
I think that's a good way to end it.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
No problem at all.
It's been a great interview.
Yep.
And come back next week for more of Mario's horror hijinks.